Welcome to the public online space of the Architekturzentrum Wien, the Austrian Architecture Museum in Vienna. This event tonight is to accompany our current exhibition, Land for Us All. It's curated by Caroline Meyer and Katharina Ritter, and Caroline will also chair the event tonight. The exhibition Land for Us All is a broad investigation on land use, policies, capitalism, speculation, climate change, and many more related topics. And many of the findings in this exhibition could make you cry or at least shout out loud. And this is why it's really important to also show that a better way of spatial planning and land use is possible. And that's what you also see in our exhibition, and that's what we're going to see tonight. And to learn about it, the title of the panel discussion tonight is There is Another Way. And we have fantastic guests from all over the world who will present and discuss their projects and strategies with us. Caroline will introduce them in a minute. And so from my part, I just would like to say thank you to all of you, to our distinguished guests, and thank you to everyone at home listening and joining and hopefully also asking questions tonight. And I would like to invite you to visit our exhibition again. We are open again since this week, and also get our excellent catalog where you will also find all the projects we are discussing tonight. And yeah, I really hope you will find a lot of inspiration from tonight.
As the next speaker, I'd like to introduce Kyosuk Lee, Senior Associate of MVRDV Rotterdam, who will talk about Seoullo 7017 Skygarden in Seoul. I think you are in Korea right now. Is that correct? What time is it in Korea?
It's 2 a.m.
I'm so sorry and so grateful that you're still here. Thank you so much. But let me introduce you. Kyosuk Lee is an urbanist and an architect, and he leads projects for MVRDV's Asia studio. Since joining the firm in 2009, he has realized a variety of projects, among these the Skygarden in Seoul and the Tianjin Binhai Public Library in China. He's currently overseeing the construction completion of Paradise City Entertainment Development and the Tancheon Waterfront Development in Seoul and a folly structure in Gwangju in South Korea. Before he joined MVRDV, Lee graduated as an architect from the Berlage Institute in Rotterdam in 2008 and worked as a researcher with Urban Think Tank in Venezuela. In the exhibition Land for Us All, we're showing this project, the Seoullo 7017 Skygarden, alongside the uncovering of the Changyechan stream as two examples in one city that radically deals with traffic infrastructures of the 70s. I think that almost seems impossible for us here in Vienna, where streets and parking spaces seem to be more sacrosanct than churches have ever been. Kyosuk Lee, the online stream is all yours. We're very curious to hear about the project.
Oh, thank you for the information, the introduction. I will share the screen. Do you see the screen? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very happy to share our experience in the Solow Project. Project located in Seoul. You see the satellite map of the Seoul 10 million population, but including surrounding cities, a 28 million population. You see the green space, that's only the mountain. So the city is lacking quite some green public space. That's how this project is relevant with the subject of the discussion today. The bridge was built in 1970s. It is one of the first the bridge for the car. As you could see the skyline behind with the construction of the high-rise tower. This was kind of the symbol of the Korean modernization at the time. And the 1980, this is one of my favorite photos to show the project. This is the moment that the democratization movement happened in the location. So this is the first time the people conquered the highway. They were on top. It was a very three-dimensional, let's say, the movement was there. And then this was the situation 2015, the no pedestrian lane is added. Korea, as you might imagine, is a strong car manufacturing country with the Hyundai and Kia Motors. The pedestrian doesn't have a space to stay in the city. And then 2013, after the 43 years servicing as the car bridge, it failed to function as a car traffic bridge anymore from the 2015. So government supposed to decide what to do next. And the people usually say, yes, we need to demolish and the new car bridge needed. And then at the same time, there's also growing voice in Korea, probably no more car bridge. We might use this chance to make the, let's say, new idea as a pedestrian bridge. At the same time, all the statistics show that Korea is too much for the car. You see that the Korean death rate by the car accident is dramatically high. And at the same time, because of this, the 10 million population, car addicted city has a lot of the pollution issue growing in the last decade. So then the mayor decide, okay, let's use this bridge for the pedestrian connection and let's detour the car. That's the orange color, you see that? That's the detour route. And then there was quite a political discussion happened. What is more important for the city? If the car goes along with the orange route, they might spend 3 minutes more on the car. But if we change the bridge for the pedestrian, pedestrian might save the 20 minutes to go from the one side to the other side. And then mayor made a decision, okay, for this project, let's have the pedestrian connection. So 2015, there was an international competition. This is the situation of the bridge. You see that the east and the west is completely divided by the train station and the huge infrastructure. It is one of the most important traffic road in Seoul. MVRDV was not only focusing on the landscape design of the park, but we see the thing different way. So we thought about what if the bridge is just the starting point of the, let's say, three-dimensional network of the pedestrian route of the site. So we started to add the branch going through the expanding through the neighbor. So we expect that ultimately this let's say like a bridge becoming like a tree who make the green and the pedestrian network around the area. So that was the, let's say, winning entry. And then after the winning the competition, we encounter quite some structure like a constraint because this bridge was not stable enough. So only possible way to grow the plant is either we apply only 10 centimeter soil with 100% coverage. In this case, you make a basically golf course without any tree. So how to use this amount of soil for the let's say the new park on top of the bridge. So what we did is we squeezed this amount of soil to the 10% of the coverage, and then we use that as a tree pot. This is a way that we might have a more diverse plant into the project. So it was a very challenging detail to put everything very light. So structure is only 26 centimeter. That includes all the electronic connection and the drainage and the automatic water supply. That was how it is made. And the tree was also tied it in strong way than usual because it could fall down to the traffic below. And this project has another hidden ambition that this project has a kind of experimental field that how many kind of the plant could survive in this harsh environment. So we could not choose only one or two plants for this garden. We thought, okay, let's try to have as much as possible. So what we did is we bring like 230 species who could survive in Korean climate, in Seoul climate, and we organize it according to the Korean alphabet order. This means that if you enter from the east side to the west side, basically you walk over the, let's say, plant library of the Seoul. This is, so for instance, this is zoom in of the drawing. You organize that according to the order, and then you grouped by the let's say, the family of the species. And then this is a way that we contain the plant in the tree part. We indicate the name. And of course, it has a very important, let's say, educational purpose. As you could see that each area has a certain environment. This is kind of the bamboo zone. The people, one of the popular zone. And then some of the plant need the different treatment for the like water lily. Also, pine tree is one of the favorite one in Seoul, and even some almost like a forest kind of the configuration could be made with this method. We don't only want to make this bridge as a park, we also want to make this as a street. So we try to add many different activities. So use the shape of the tree part, we add a cafe and some cafes to have it to put on the bridge. So we add the extra structure and we make the stair to the loop. And from the loop, you see the overview of the bridge and the city. And then some of the tree part open as a theater to provide some like, performance in the weekend. Some plant is more for the cooling down in the summer. Some of the tree part is made for the children to shout and to enjoy in the air. And also we preserve some part of the old structure, also to look down to the street. And then a connection is a very important part of the project. You see that like a tree-like the shape extended, also connected to the ground level by escalator and the lift, another lift. And we also extend the bridge to the ground level. So bridge get even longer in the connection. And then we add extra branches to the neighbor who doesn't have a connection to the center. And you could see that how we carefully locate the stair to match with the street nearby. And you see that also how we match. And then we also try to connect some of the tower nearby. So this is a view from the commercial space of the podium part of the tower to connect the bridge project. And in terms of the lighting, Seoul is full of this kind of the rainbow color. And we don't want to repeat the same way. We want to make the very calm lighting. The blue was a very good background of the activity happening on top of the bridge. So it make quite a calm contrast with the surrounding. 2017, when this project was finished, people concern a lot. They say, no, not. They say it's 70% of the tree will die in 2 years because it's harsh. You don't have enough soil. That's why we have a photograph project to prove that they could surely survive. So this is the photograph taken in the same viewpoint 2 years later. So most of the tree, 98% is to survive in the very good way. So this is the one of the view in the opening day. And this is the way that is survived 2 years later. It's not only the tree grows, but also the business, small business around the bridge is also growing. This is also very important aspect of the project. We are now doing the Seoullo 2.0. Basically, the Seoullo project is a completely top-down project because it's owned by the government. It's 100% funded by the government. But from 2.0, we try to do different things. We make the extension of the pedestrian network to the surrounding, and we appoint the street architect, the local young architect. We take care of each of the connection. So we appoint the 10 young architects, and they discuss with the local resident how to develop this network further. So, for instance, we make some collage to explain how to develop this network. This is a community office, almost like abandoned feeling. When the network continue, green and the pedestrian flow could continue. And of course, some of the private business could also contribute in the more kind way to the visitors. And then many of the, let's say, gated housing complexes could have also try their effort to join this connection. And then in the city center, there are still some urban factories that bring quite some character of this area. So we also suggest it's not only the production area, we try to also show the product they made on the street to the visitors. This is also one of the projects, the highway toll gate could be also changed to the pedestrian connection from one to the other side. So this is our expectation. 2015, it was the car bridge, and step by step, it provoked the urban regeneration of the surrounding area, and we make the surrounding area more green and dense and more pedestrian oriented with a vibrant urban activity. I have a short movie to show since because of the pandemic situation, not every one of you could visit the project. Let me try. This is the movie from the sky. You see that we are entering from the Korean alphabet order, the Ga zone, and this is already extended part of the bridge. You are marching toward the city center. You see that the central station building there, and then you see already the connection to the office building and hotel building surrounding. And then this is like a 50-meter wide, huge street that has 12 the zebra. And you go over, and then there's a major traffic lane, the train lane, and you go over, and there's some plaza before they get bifurcated the 4 different the neighborhood. And then we also transform one of the plaza in the ground level with a pedestrian friendly plaza with a potential pedestrian activity happen. This was what I prepared as a short introduction for the Seoullo project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. And I really hope that one day I will be able to visit this project. One
Please.
day it will be possible again. And thank you to everybody for a round of fantastic presentations. I have to say, I'm really happy that we managed to organize today's events, and really the coronavirus is at fault here, because we were supposed to finish the exhibition already in a couple of days, but we then, because we had so many weeks that we had to stay closed, we prolonged the time for it. So we had the opportunity to also come up with one more event in this series. And I think it really shows that it's such an important thing to not just point out the problems that we have with land use, with planning, etc., but to also show that and inspire with good projects in that respect. So thank you again for all of you. For the audience, now would be a great opportunity if you have any questions to each of us, any questions specifically about a project, please just put them into the chat and I'll be able to read them out. But I've prepared a few short questions. We won't keep this long because we're all kind of sick of Zoom, aren't we? But it would be nice now that I all have you online. I'm quite interested to ask you whether this escalating use of land and the increase in sealed surface is a topic at all in your respective country. I mean, we know from Martin's lecture that it is. I know a little bit from Switzerland that it is a problem. It's a very similar situation in Switzerland as it is in Austria, small country, many mountains, a lot of people. But what does it look like? What does it look like in Switzerland? But what does it look like in Korea, for example, or in the Netherlands?
Who should answer first? Korea first, Netherlands second? Or
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Netherlands first, then Switzerland, then Korea, because I saw that Vedrana also wants to say something.
Well, in the Netherlands, it's actually, I would say we're quite acknowledging or have acknowledged this issue already, I would say a decade or two ago, in the sense is that cities like Rotterdam specifically became extremely renowned for their kind of excessive paving of the whole city. And they've been actually very actively undoing that. And I think kind of around, also because of the very obvious water issues in the Netherlands, this is quite advanced in planning. So we're now doing an urban plan for 4,000 houses in which this is just mandatory, that you have quite a lot of open kind of green space and specifically like water management levels that require green. So I think it was a problem, but that we're like very well en route to making it much less of a problem. So I think that's a more kind of optimistic note from the from the Netherlands at the moment.
Right. So what I could say is that such initiative that is or the strategy of not zoning new land is already in action. Like there is actually a regulation in Switzerland where that doesn't allow municipality to zone new land for building. That is a positive thing. The other problem that arises and it's becoming stronger and stronger is actually that the land that remained for building is very expensive due to that it also becomes like a speculation object. And that's the problem that we have in the cities, and where projects like ours basically don't have a chance on the free market because we can't afford buying a land. So we are kind of, such initiatives are very strongly connected to different players, like whether they are the cities or other institutions that are basically have land or are able to buy land and then lease it to smaller initiatives like us with a interest rate that we can afford.
I continue the Korean case. I think most of the Korea is still growing society in terms of the new town. Many of the new town is planned with the consideration of many of the issues that we are discussing. So there are many regulations and the guideline applied for that matter. But problem is city center. Like as I show in the very first slide of my presentation, the city of the Seoul is completely covered by the concrete. city government tried to do several things. First of all, the green roof is one of the things they do, like also our project. And then they give the incentive for the project who provide more open soil, the land, to the garden, to the surrounding. This also related with the microclimate issue of the city center. We didn't see yet how situation get improved the last 10 years effort, but I hope they have a plan for the next 20 years or 30 years. We will see how it will improve the situation.
And your project, as you showed, the next stages, they will contribute a lot to the greening of the city center, if you put it like that. I see. Let me read out a comment from the chat. It's more of a comment, not a question. It says from Jakob S, maybe there is an opportunity to make the exhibition kind of permanent, maybe outside the AZW, but within the MQ area, or maybe even as a moving installation through Austria. Because Bewusstseinsbildung, so consciousness building in Austrian municipalities is one of the most important things to make locals aware, like Bodenfreiheit does in Vorarlberg. I can answer that actually, because we are turning our exhibition right now into a traveling exhibition. We've spent the last 2 weeks packing it up. It will be picked up on Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it will start traveling through Austria for 2 years, which is a nice thing, of course.
One more comment in relationship to Martin's, I think, because I just said this kind of optimistic thing about the Netherlands, but then I was thinking about Martin's presentation, and that is much more pertains to cities. And actually, when you look into the hinterland, it is specifically the logistical sector and the growth of the logistical sector that is really paving over. And I think because they don't get any architectural consideration, because it's just seen as kind of necessary evil in order to get our packages quickly, I think there's very little engagement from our field with that type of development. And I think that Martin's kind of efforts that they had a stack and essentially, you know, use 3 times as little floor space because of the kind of your action is something which is a result. And I think results like that could be much more pervasive if people get involved in this kind of uninteresting theme, and for architects that want to get involved in these ugly buildings. But it's not only architects, I think everybody, like community organizations, etc., to address this, because if anyone's paving over land, it's the logistical sector, I think, at the moment.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it was quite shocking to see these 2 images, this very, very nice view of the valley with a lot of green space, very few houses, quite untouched. And then to see this in huge shed, and especially this huge parking around it.
Doesn't look like a bakery at all.
No, not at all. It did actually look like an Amazon headquarters, no, not headquarters, but a logistics hub. Yes, that's absolutely true. I would like to now ask you, because 3 of the 4 projects that we've shown today, they're actually what you would call bottom-up projects. So they were started from, or at least not from the side of the government, but from the civil society, or from a group of people who were looking for affordable space to live, or from 2 young architects that wanted to contribute towards shaping an area that they grew up in. So none of this would have happened in this way without your engagement as part of the critical public or critical professionals. Is that something that's very important to your role as a member of the public or as architects? I think that's something that I have a different question for you, Kyosuk Lee, because your project is not so much a bottom-up project, but the other way around. But I would like Martin, Christopher, and Vedrana to answer that.
I think personally that it's very important to mobilize civil society to get into a more long-term perspective, because for the past decades we were given bread and games. We earned a lot of money by selling land, and we have our jobs, and we all believe in this myth of growth, continuous growth. And at the same time, we all realize that we approach a boundary here very soon. And I think the rural areas, and that's, thank you, Christopher, for mentioning that, the rural areas are predominantly neglected presently, and that would be something that your exhibition should also tackle, moving towards the rural areas and not only into the cities where the students and the architects and the spatial planners live, but also moving out where the people live in their single flats or family homes, and contribute towards the sprawl. And at the same time, at the restaurant table, complaining about the loss of open spaces, and not realizing that they are a big part of the problem.
Okay, and so I think, well, when we started our project, we saw it more as an opportunity. Well, we had an idea and we were not so much ideological about it at that time. I think we were very much really just interested in how is it possible to stay in the city and to make such a project where we could live together or create a community. And I think in our case, we really became more aware of what are we actually doing by doing it. And just now we are mature enough that we can be part of the discourse, and we understand that what we did was actually interesting, and that it is something with this project, we now here in the city, we can be part of a lot of discussion. And I think we actually moved and inspired others to do similar. There are different areas in Basel that are being developed in a similar way. So I'm kind of proud of that, but I have to say that in the beginning, it was really not so much intentional. It was kind of what grew out of just thinking rationally about what do we need, why do we want that, and it was we really tried to design the whole process for the people that they see it as an opportunity, and not so much as a creative group of people that think that they are fighting something like an evil thing. And that was good, because the culture that we developed, it is very easygoing and at the same time effective in a way.
Yeah. So I think from our perspective, it's a bit nuanced, because I think because we can visualize stuff at various scales, and we can make our influence always very effectively look very big. So that always has, like, architects have this, I would say, predilection to kind of overestimate their influence, and at the same time, there is this interesting way that we do have these mechanisms. So I more see us as kind of as players in this game, which have an interesting tool at our disposal, which you just actually kind of start processes and kind of guide it. And when I said, like, we have to wrestle ourselves in, that's really the case. Like, we're not evidence partners all the time. And then sometimes we get a commission in which something that we maybe thought of, that stair, we thought of, that was exactly positioned there 8 years before we got the commission. But then it was like, hey, we have this idea. We want to build a stair here. And we were like, oh, really? Oh, well, what a good idea. And then you could claim that it was your idea, but maybe it's just an evident. And I think it's not really about that. I think it's much more about participating, knowing what you have at your disposal, and then just being a conscious player in this game and kind of starting up these dynamics. And ultimately, obviously hope that you were as influential as possible, and at least kind of keep playing and trying to have influence. But in our case, it's so messy, it would be hard to kind of claim causal relationship between what we did and what happened.
But still, you took part in it, and that's also, yeah, you took
Yeah.
part in it without being able to claim the complete authorship, which is a
which is also
good thing to do.
Yeah, because there's so many people involved. So it would also be, I think, it would be arrogant to kind of claim that because we sent in those drawings, you know, there were a lot of people already kind of, you know, thinking about this hole in the wall, in the mountain, but we still do it a lot. And then, you know, the process starts, and sometimes it works, and more often it doesn't.
That brings me, there's one question in the chat, which also brings me to my next question, which is going to be the last question, because we're going to let Kyosuke Lee get a rest. It's probably 3 o'clock now. The question is from Lena Tega, asking, do you think that the amount of streets in cities should be decreased in order to allow more safe spaces for passengers and cyclists, equaling in a better economy for local shops and cleaner air? But I'll connect that directly to my question, which is, we found it extremely interesting in our research that the Seoullo Skygarden was not a bottom-up project. It was a top-down project initiated by the city administration, or more precisely by the mayor, as you mentioned. And if you imagine this project in Vienna, it would be completely inconceivable to say, we don't need this inner city motorway anymore, let's just close it. I think then you would really see what civil society can do to stop a project. This is what we should learn from, really.
Yeah.
So what was his motivation? What was the motivation of the city administration, and how did it go down in public? Were there any negative responses to it?
Let's put it in the financial point of view. Project cost 50 million euro, relatively small. If government city make the museum in some area in the city center, it usually costs 200 million euro, but that cover like the 100 meter by 100 meter site, and the effect is very limited. Probably some area around might be affected by the new building, but the bridge this bridge is like a kilometer length, and then the area that affected by the project is much more than what we do when the investment is focusing on only one point. I think the mayor already knew that when they suggested this project. So in Seoul, there are more and more kind of the linear project that has it's not only the Cheonggyecheon River project, of course, is one of the example, and this one, and then we also have a Korean low line project in the city center. So the physical aspect of the project also affects the range of the, let's say, good, let's say, the effect from the project. And then I think it's interesting also to mention about the speed, like issue, like it took only 2 years from the decision from the mayor to be completed and open to the public. But I'm also living in the Netherlands. I could imagine if it happened in the Western European country, including the Austria, it might take the decade. But it could be done more, let's say, democratic way, with a much more involvement that we could imagine. But I think what is very interesting case of the Seoul is that the government used this project in very almost like a military operation way, top down in 2 years, to provoke the surrounding areas to bottom up project. So this how to coordinate this interface between the top down, let's say, dictation to bring the surrounding reaction in the interesting way. I think that's the beauty of the coordination. from the city government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very intelligent decision, and one can only hope that other city administrations learn from that.
Yeah, of course that there. Yeah, I remember when we were on the construction, people complain a lot. When I take the car, the taxi to the construction site, taxi driver doesn't know I'm working on the site. He complained, this will delay the 2 hours of the traffic every day. But city is already full of the traffic jam. Changing this to the pedestrian doesn't really make the visible increase of the traffic hours. But for pedestrian, the effect was very strong. I think the city invested 50 million euro, but some of the property who has a bridge connection to our project get much more property value increase by doing that. Of course, then we need to be careful about the gentrification of the surrounding area. That's why city is trying to organize the urban regeneration in the more coordinated way. But it's happening more often first in Singapore and Korea. It's one of the two places going forward in Asia. And I see that after this project, many cities in China or Southeast Asia also try to have an interest to do this kind of operation in coming years.
Very interesting. I do hope that I'll be able to visit it one day. But I would like to again take the opportunity to thank you all for your great talks. It was great to have you all here from all over the world. Yes, and I'll let you get on with your evenings or your nights in Korea. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very, very grateful for this, and it has been a really inspiring evening for me.